The diamondback terrapin, famed delicacy of millionaire menus and champagne suppers during the gay 90s, almost became extinct as the great auk and the dodo bird. But here at the United States Fisheries Laboratory at Beaufort, North Carolina, the terrapin family is rapidly being put back on its feet and on the nation's menus with the help of Captain Charles Hatzel, the country's leading terrapin expert. The hatchery has more than 3,000 grown diamondbacks here and reaps an annual harvest of more than 15,000 young ones. After about 2 years' growth, the young are used to restock salt marsh coastal waters along the southern states. So popular was terrapin as a fancy table luxury before the turn of the century, the swamps and estuaries of the Chesapeake and the Carolinas were scoured to supply the market, and no wonder. They brought $96 a dozen in New York at one time. What chance did a terrapin have at that price? By 1900, they were fabulously scarce. It seemed they were doomed to extinction. Government experts decided to try raising terrapin in captivity, so experiments were conducted over a number of years. How successful they have been, you can judge for yourself. Literally thousands of the little fellows are hatched every year in the warm sand of the hatching beds here at Beaufort. Terrapin eggs are laid in holes in the sand about 5 inches deep. When the little ones are hatched, they usually are covered over with sand and have to dig their way out. Since this hatchery was started in 1909, Captain Hatzel has played nursemaid to more than 150,000 young terrapins. The little fellows are carefully tended during their babyhood in the government aquarium. They no sooner arrive than they get their first swimming lesson. Boy, if you think a duck takes water, look at that. They only weigh about an ounce now, but when full grown, they'll be 2 pounds or more and up to 8 inches long. And just think of all the soup that means when they've outgrown their playpens. After 2 years, they're ready to be turned loose, out on their own, as it were. Thousands of them every year, distributed along the coast from Maryland to Florida, set free to grow and raise big families so American gourmands may have their terrapin and sherry sauce again. At the present New York prices for grown diamondbacks today, $3.50 each, raising terrapins sounds like it might be a very lucrative business. But don't get any fancy ideas. It's not a get-rich-quick game. They're not so hard to raise in captivity now that the government has perfected the system, and they call for fancy prices when full grown. But here's the catch. The little nippers won't be ready for the market, won't be eating size for 20 years. Hidden among the islets and keys of the Virgin Islands, where the blue Caribbean meets the broad Atlantic, is a tropic paradise, the island of St. John, a spot destined perhaps to become the American Bermuda. Few Americans know or realize its full charm yet, but more and more, from nearby St. Thomas, from Puerto Rico, and from the mainland, tourists are finding it an ideal vacation land, summer or winter, where crystal clear bays, Cinnamon Bay here and others with their white sandy beaches, invite the traveler to stay a while and enjoy golden days of pleasure. St. John is an island without automobiles. It hasn't even a wagon road. But rising from the shorelines of its countless bays and beaches are rugged hills with trails and vantage points that offer a profusion of exquisite vistas, such as the magnificent view from America Hill. St. John has literally gone back to nature, but half hidden among its tangled vines and verdure are romantic ruins. Here, overlooking Canil Bay, colonial life flourished 2 centuries ago. The Virgin Islands were a clearinghouse for slaves brought from Africa for the American colonies. And here, on lovely St. John, prosperous sugar plantations were developed. Cane fields worked by thousands of blacks, sugar mills, and the luxurious homes of wealthy European landowners. Only colorful ruins remain of that golden age. Cheaper sugar from Cuba and elsewhere, and a slave uprising, leveled that era into dust. Only memories remain, and the sparkling beauty of this magic isle, rightly called the gem of the Caribbean. What a place to enjoy the bounties of nature. Golden sunlight, invigorating depths of azure water, rimmed by sandy beaches. The bays of St. John are destined to become familiar names to American vacationists. Beautiful Cinnamon Bay, picturesque Canil, and placid Hawk's Nest here. The island of St. John, which is only a few minutes' sail from the eastern end of St. Thomas, is a bare 8 miles by 5 in size. But in that small area is encompassed an amazing display of nature's pristine loveliness. It's a new frontier for lovers of the outdoors. Game fish of all kinds abound in the tangy waters off St. John. And here is a rare sport that never fails to thrill: catching lobsters by torchlight. They go after them by hand, you notice. It's a stalking game that keeps the nerve on edge, I'll bet. There, he has one, right at his feet. And what a lobster it is. Must be the grandfather of all crustaceans. Think of catching that fellow by hand. Life is smooth sailing in the bays of St. John, sports and relaxation amid scenes of enchantment. Golden hours of enjoyment on the gem of the Caribbean.